So let's talk about Bolsonaro for a minute. So sitting here in the United States, I heard the worst things about President Bolsonaro. You know, he allowed people to die under COVID. There was a lot of news came our way. In preparation for our conversation, I went online, and I was looking for podcasts that can explain to me what is happening in Brazil right now. In virtually every single one of these podcasts that I would stumble upon would say something like, "Thank God Lula is back, a victory for democracy," as in, thank God we got rid of Bolsonaro. And so I am wondering, what is the truth about Bolsonaro? Can we even have access to it? Was he so horrible, or did the media do to him what the media has done to Trump?
It's the exact same phenomenon, with the difference that the United States has a more prominent conservative media and Brazil has none. So anything you read about Bolsonaro in the newspapers is garbage. And it's weird because I criticize Bolsonaro for a lot of things and they call me a Bolsonarist. And I was like, no, I defend him because everyone is so unfair to him that I have to step up and defend him most of the times from lies. But I don't agree with all his policies. We have a lot of differences in the way, especially in terms of strategy for the country. But the media, they lie so much. What they've done with Donald Trump and with Bolsonaro, it's unprecedented in the history of journalism, because the media was always biased. It was biased in the time of my grandfather, and he used to complain a lot about it. When you look at the numbers now, it's not like there's a difference of 10% in the good coverage versus bad coverage. No, it's not. Now, if you look at Trump's numbers, is 5% of good coverage and 70% of bad coverage, and the rest in the middle. That never happened in the history of journalism. And that's exactly what's happening with Bolsonaro. So Bolsonaro's ideas, he didn't control policy for COVID because the Supreme Court of Brazil decided that the states had the power to decide their policies. Although the constitution in Brazil doesn't say so like it does in the US. But the Supreme Court stepped in and decided, no, the governors are going to have the power to decide the policy. So Bolsonaro never implemented the policies that he wanted, most of them.
Here, I think people were very upset with the way Donald Trump tweeted or spoke, but they were pretty happy with, his policies.
Well, it's the same with Brazil. Bolsonaro left the country with the country growing, with the public accounts at Treasury was doing fantastic, better than it did in many, many years. Unemployment was going down. Brazil had in the pandemics in 2020 and 2021 and 2022, Brazil did actually way better than most countries. Bolsonaro stepped in with a program to save companies and to create a basic income for people that were staying at home. And people liked that a lot. I think what people like Bolsonaro is that he's authentic. I met him like Donald Trump. I met him a lot in person. He's the same guy that you see on TV. And I think people sense that authenticity. Also, he shared the values of the majority of Brazilian population. But he went back to Brazil and he lost all his political rights. In 4 months, they decided that he could not run for office anymore. So he's like, I don't even know how many indictments against him he's facing. But the same thing as they did to Donald Trump.
It really begs the question of, can Brazil, there's effectively no freedom. There's no political freedom.
And that's what faces the country now the most. People are they lost their hopes. And what I think the Milei's election in Argentina, that shows hope. That shows we can defeat the establishment. They're not indestructible. Argentina did it, and the United States, I believe, will do it. And I think we can do that in Brazil as well. And a lot of that has been done by journalists like myself who are in the United States, and we can still speak freely because of, thank God, First Amendment.
Right.
But Bolsonaro was pro-America. Lula is very much anti-America. And the BRICS is just a way of hurting the United States. So the BRICS is not really a thing. It's not really an institution. It's just a group of people that meet with the bank that is funded by China. But the main thing about the BRICS is it is a way of agreeing to not do trade, for example, in US dollars. So the main goal of Lula now And Lula already signed 15 treaties with China since it took off. And the only thing that everyone agrees, Russia, China, India, is that the power of the United States needs to be undermined. They believe in a more multipolar world. And Lula is becoming cozy, very cozy with China. With Lula, they can do whatever they want now.
The Chinese.
The Chinese. They can do whatever they want. Lula sees China as the alternative to the United States, to the point that for 150 years, the United States were the number one commercial party of Brazil. And then Lula, on his first term, during his first term, China became number one. And now China does almost twice as much commerce with Brazil.
What about Iran? What is Brazil's relationship with the Iranians? And if the Iranians do come to the table, which they seem like they are joining BRICS, and what does that look like? Are the Iranians having a strong influence on the Brazilians now?
Well, we had the Iranian ship docking in Brazil earlier in 2023 and
Why?
being resupplied because Brazil let them. The Brazilian government let them, and they even threw a party on the ship. It was the weirdest thing in the world. The stronger guy, the most important guy on Lula's foreign policy, was, let me call it Lula's Anthony Blinken. He wrote the preface of a book exhorting the political importance of Hamas. There's a gentleman called Celso Amorim.
The political importance of Hamas.
Yes. So Lula, it's not new. The position of Lula anti-Israel is not new. So Lula's party was always openly against Israel and pro-Palestine, whatever that is. And that's where Brazil stands now. The foreign policy of Lula's administration is a disaster. Most of his policies are. The economy is not doing well. Brazil in 2020 is expected to grow 2.5% to 3% in 2023, which you would say, wow, that's good. No. It's because the agro business, which the crops and all the meat and all that production in Brazil is going to grow 15%. And they represent 30% of the country's economy. But Lula is very hostile to the agribusiness in Brazil. So the rest of the countries, the manufacturing, the service, the construction, everything is going down the drain.